James Mejia is running as a mayoral candidate in Denver, and I wanted to give him a minute to introduce himself and let you all know what he's all about. James?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, thank you very much. And what a great turnout. Look at all these Denverites interested in the future of our city, the future of our region. So I applaud you for coming out. My name is James Mejia, and chatting with some folks in the back of the room. I'm a native of Denver, grew up in the Park Hill neighborhood, walked to my public schools in a safe neighborhood, graduated from high school, and went to college. A pretty simple story that I think should be available to all kids. And I think about my mother's story when I think about why I want to do this and why I want to make that available. So here's a woman who grew up as one of 15 children in northern Colorado, picking beets in the fields, starting at the age of 5, and eventually became the only one in her family to make it to college, where she met my father at the University of Northern Colorado, also the only one in his family to make it to college. And one generation later, through sacrifice, resiliency, hard work, they made sure that all 13 of their kids made it to college. So I'm 9th of those 13 kids. And so when we talk about what's not available, we also need to talk about the responsibility of parents getting their kids ready for the K-12 system. Whatever sacrifice, whatever hard work needs to go into parents playing a role and not abdicating their responsibility for the public education system. But we also need to hold that system accountable for high quality results for our kids. I served on the school board from '99 to '03, where we gave birth to the charter movement for positive results. So I'm a believer in all systems that can show positive results for kids. And when we look at education, we tried to get Boeing to town, and when I worked for Mayor Webb in the Office of Economic Development and helped lead the effort to try to get Boeing to town, there were 2 reasons that they decided not to come to Denver. One was the quality of our education system, and the second was a lack of direct international flights out of Denver International Airport. I've worked in both of those areas and want to make sure that we can satisfy the criteria, create the kind of city that not only we all can be proud of, but that businesses can thrive and desire to move to Denver to. We've got a great quality of life. Let's match it with removing the obstacles of city government and make sure that this is the kind of vibrant city from a private sector perspective that makes sense for creating jobs here in Denver. And my name is James Mejia. Appreciate your support. We've got some information in the back, and happy to take any questions if we have time for those. Thanks so much.
Does anybody have questions for our mayoral candidate?
When's the election?
The election is May 3rd. It is a mail-in ballot. Those will hit your mailbox about April 15th. So we're about a month and a half away from first votes.
Travis?
Can you tell us a little bit about your economics positions?
Economics positions.
Yeah, economic positions. So, in my opinion, the 2 most important things to do in the city right now are close the budget gap and create jobs in Denver. In terms of closing the budget gap, we've got a $100 million gap this year, another projected $100 million gap for next year, and we still haven't felt the effect of the state and federal cuts as they'll affect the city of Denver. In terms of what needs to be done, first and foremost, more efficiency in city government. And so when I was at Parks and Recreation in Mayor Webb's cabinet, we had 2 10% budget cuts, 2 successive years of budget cuts. We had 30% less water usage as Denver Water's largest customers, and still managed to expand the system by 25%. So we brought on parks at Lowry and Stapleton and Central Platte Valley. Those efficiencies are still available throughout city government, and I think it's a relationship that the mayor has with city employees that can bring those efficiencies from the front line to be realized throughout the entire city. So that's the first thing I look to, is more efficiency. Second piece is raising revenue without raising taxes. We had a grant program at Parks and Rec that paid for itself within 3 months. So we're leaving a lot on the table with regard to private money that people wanted to invest in the city, as well as some federal grants that was willing to be invested in the city. So we've got to look there first before we look at any other measure in terms of economic development. So,
another question?
How do you feel about state government spending in public education?
We're 48th in funding public education across the country. I'm a big believer in teacher accountability, but also a big believer in giving teachers the resources they need to get the job done. There are plenty of efficiencies that need to be realized in the public school system, but I also believe that it's a smart investment, and not just an expense, for giving the teachers the tools they need to teach.
Another question? Okay, follow up.
So you feel that the state government should be investing in, really, I mean, the state government should be an actor in investment as opposed to just governance?
In case of the public school system, yes, and let me tell you why. Because when we don't invest in the public school system, you'll pay for it in incarceration, you'll pay for it in educational remediation, you'll pay for it in a lower tax rate because we can't afford to finance the services that we want, the streets that we want, the street lights on, etc., because people don't have good paying jobs. So in my opinion, yeah, that's a damn good investment because you save money that you're not going to be paying off the other end.
Okay, we have one more question and then we're going to get back to social networking and drinking.
We have like 3 more.
Oh my God. Fine. Patrick, go.
Yeah. I'm going to say, like, as somebody who was a prisoner of the high school system, if you stick I have a bunch of friends, you stick them in a classroom and say learn and they don't want to be there, you're not doing any good. You're wasting money on keeping kids in what are glorified prisons, truly. So I don't see it as a good investment, spending money just to hold people. That if somebody's going to be a con, they're going to be a con, and your public education won't do anything for it. Second, again, if the kid wants to learn, spending seems to be one of those lovely cliches thrown around.
What's your question?
Oh, that was it.
Okay. Is that a question? Is that a question?
So is that a question? So do I believe in housing kids in high school that don't want to learn? No, I don't.
Is that truly a good investment? I mean,
if they don't want to learn, no, it's not a good investment. I think we need to find options and choices for kids to go where they will learn, and if they're not, they're going to find their way outside the system anyway.
One more. Go ahead. Mayor, kill me here. Go
Jim,
ahead.
I'm curious about your thoughts on the Mayor Hickenlooper's homeless program. Is it something that should be continued? Do you think it's been successful? What are your thoughts on that overall?
You know, it's hard to reconcile the success that's touted with what it feels like downtown or driving around the city and seeing kind of the homeless population. I'm still trying to reconcile that in my mind. So I see the metrics that you know, everyone says, well, it's successful, you got to continue it, that kind of thing, but it doesn't feel successful to me. So I'm not sure I have a clear answer for you. If indeed it's demonstrated that we're saving money on the back end by earlier intervention and transitional housing, not permanent, but transitional housing to get people on their way and get them off services, then I'm all for that investment. But if we're not able to transition people off the services, I have a hard time with it.
Real investment is investing your own money, not investing other people's money. That's real investment.